for at least 100 years, Africa has been plagued with routine major epidemics caused by the same organism, and this is what's called the Group A meningococcus. And this is why this has been such a terrible problem.
There are 22 countries in what's called the meningitis belt in sub-Saharan Africa, where there are seasonal epidemics of meningitis.
Epidemic meningitis is among the most greatly feared of all diseases, given the highly infectious nature and the rapid progression to severe disease.
They come not only in sporadic cases where you have 1 or 2 cases in a city, but 1,000 cases.
1996 was one of the most terrible years for meningitis in West Africa. Ministers of health from African countries that had been so touched by this epidemic went to the World Health Organization and said, we really have to do something.
So we needed a conjugate vaccine, as conjugate vaccines have been found to circumvent most of these problems. The problem, however, is that to produce these vaccines is usually quite expensive.
And the first thing that group of African health leaders said to us is, you know, the only thing worse than not having a vaccine for this disease would be to have a vaccine we can't afford. So we said, what's affordable? And they said, if the vaccine was 50 cents a dose or less, we would buy it and use it.
But at a target price of 50 cents per dose, no large pharmaceutical company was interested.
We reached out to Serum Institute of India, a developing country manufacturer, because they could produce a quality product at an affordable price.
They took this on, and as they usually do, they improved upon the process and were able to meet the less than 50 cents per dose that the project required. I was fortunate enough to be part of the launch in the Burkina Faso, and what was amazing was that they had committed to scaling it up in 10 days to their entire population, ages 1 through 29. And that was met with a lot of skepticism, because we do mass campaigns, but usually in some age group or some subsection of the country. This was of the country. By day 8, they had immunized 99% of that target population.
I have to credit the leadership of PATH for bringing all these partners together. WHO, a major funder like the Gates Foundation, but it could have been anybody else. A developing country manufacturer that can produce a quality product at an affordable price, all driven by and meeting the needs of the affected countries. This type of partnership is an ideal we've talked about for decades.
For the introduction of the MenA conjugate vaccine, this couldn't have happened without Gavi's support as it's been rolled out.
The creation of this vaccine is a huge success for global health. We had a new vaccine that is tailor-made for an African need, priced for Africa, and developed with hands-on support from African scientists.
And then to track the impact. Over the first year, there were no cases of meningitis A among children and young adults who were immunized with the vaccine in Burkina Faso. And we're continuing to see that what we originally thought back in 2001, which was that if we could get high population coverage of a conjugate vaccine, we could interrupt epidemic transmission. It's one of the best success stories that I know.